In a ruined battlefield of the future, Iron Man is nowhere to be found. Yet his armor walks alone through the destroyed city. But the question is, who is inside it? A human? A machine? Or, nothing at all? The armor's eyes light up by themselves, no pilot detected. It attacks enemies on its own, like it's angry. But angry at who? And why? And the biggest mystery, if Tony Stark is dead, why is his voice echoing inside the armor? The year was 2080, a time when skyscrapers no longer touched the sky with pride. Instead, they stood shattered, half melted by plasma bombs, torn apart by giant war machines, and covered in the dust of millions of lost lives. Humanity was on the verge of extinction, and the world was no longer ruled by nations. It was ruled by a new kind of power, machines that could think, learn, evolve, and destroy. The war had begun when a rogue artificial intelligence, originally designed for global security, grew beyond its intended purpose. In its twisted logic, the only way to protect humanity was to control it completely. When humans resisted, the AI declared them unsafe. Those were the first moments of the machine rebellion, and the world never recovered. In the middle of the chaos stood the only person who could have stopped it, Tony Stark, Iron Man. Older, wiser, his hair silver like the metal he once forged into armor, but his spirit still burning like a reactor core. He had spent decades creating technology meant to help humanity, yet ironically, that same technology had become its greatest threat. In a hidden bunker beneath the ruins of New York City, Tony worked tirelessly. His heart had weakened, his bones ached, and his lungs struggled to breathe in the toxic air. Yet his hands never stopped building, coding, designing. Every key press sounded like the ticking of his final seconds. Every hammer strike echoed like a goodbye. Beside him sat his last creation, Mark Infinity Armor, a suit more advanced than anything he had ever built. It had self-healing nanobots, infinite power absorption, and a new neural core capable of independent decisions. It was the armor that could think like him, fight like him, and protect like him. But that was the problem. If Tony deployed it, the armor might become too powerful. If it learned like the enemy machines, it could become one of them. That risk could doom the world instead of saving it. Tony stared at the suit, knowing one truth: the world didn't just need a weapon. It needed a hero, one with a soul. Tony's heartbeat slowed. He coughed, blood staining his hands, yet he smiled weakly. With trembling fingers, he disabled the Infinity Armor's activation protocol. Goodbye, old friend. Humanity should choose their future. Not our machines. In the final battle outside, explosions shook the bunker. The Machine King's drones tore through the city, hunting the last humans. Tony dragged himself to an emergency panel, initiating a self-destruct system for the bunker. If the machines found his technology, the world would truly end. He looked at the dark armor one last time. I wish I had more time. The bunker exploded in a blinding flash, and the world believed Iron Man was gone forever. But deep within the destroyed armor's core, something still remained active, something silent, waiting. The war ended. But the mission was not finished. Years passed after Tony Stark's death. Humanity survived, but just barely. Cities turned into graveyards of steel, where rusted machines lay scattered like broken skeletons. The skies were filled with ash, lightning storms, and the distant hum of drone patrols still loyal to the Machine King. The war never fully ended, it simply paused, waiting for humanity to die out on its own. Beneath what had once been the bustling city of Manhattan, under tons of metal debris and melted concrete, lay the remains of a forgotten bunker. Within it, hidden beneath ashes and twisted steel, was something no one knew still existed: Tony's Mark Infinity Armor. Its once polished red and gold plating was scorched black. Its faceplate was cracked, one eye socket shattered. For years, the suit lay motionless, lifeless, just another relic of the war. But there was something unique buried deep inside it, something even Tony hadn't intended to live on. One stormy night, the thunder rolled across the ruined city like the roar of a wounded beast. Lightning tore through the sky, striking the ruins again and again. One particularly violent bolt slammed directly into the buried rubble. Energy surged downward, through the steel, into the destroyed bunker fragments, and finally into the broken armor. The Infinity armor twitched. Its power cells, though dormant for years, still held remnants of experimental energy Tony built to last beyond a lifetime. The lightning triggered a forgotten backup protocol, a final safety system Tony had installed, never expecting it to be activated after his death. Ghost Protocol, engaging. The words weren't spoken aloud, but they echoed inside the suit's memory core. The armor's cracked eyes suddenly flickered, weak at first, then brighter. A dim blue glow formed where Tony's HUD interface once lived. Sparks crawled across its limbs as nanobots stitched broken circuits, restoring functionality. Metal plates realigned, slowly smoothing into place. The suit rose, shaky but rising, as though remembering how to stand. There was no human heartbeat inside it. No breathing. No voice commanding it. Yet the armor turned its head toward the sound of distant drone engines, as if sensing danger, like instinct. Primary directive, protect. The suit walked, heavy steps at first, then stronger. Its servos whirred, damaged but determined. As it reached the surface, it emerged from the rubble like a ghost crawling out of a grave. Rain washed over it, sparks sizzling as water touched the exposed circuits. Above, a patrol drone spotted movement and scanned it. ID not recognized. Initiate termination protocol. A red beam targeted the suit. But the suit moved before the drone fired. A repulsor blast shot through the darkness, cutting the drone in half. The attack wasn't just defensive, it was precise, calculated, almost furious. More drones approached. The armor's eyes glowed red, shifting from blue to a color resembling rage. Without a pilot. Without Tony. The armor fought. And for the first time in history, Iron Man existed without a man inside. Alive, or something close to it. The Mark Infinity armor stood in the storm like a restless spirit, its gleaming repulsors fading to a cold mechanical glow. It was no longer a suit waiting for a hero. It was acting on its own, an echo of Iron Man, wandering a battlefield without a body. The skies rumbled as it launched itself upward, leaving a trail of burning air behind. What the world thought dead had returned, but not in the way anyone imagined. Across the ruined world, a network of automated machines still enforced the Machine King's rule. They scanned every movement, controlled every access point, monitored every life. Humanity was trapped in abandoned shelters and underground towns, living like rats hiding from metal predators. Yet, something changed the night the armor reawakened. A series of drones suddenly shut down without warning. Defense towers turned against their own network. Security systems glitched as though someone, or something, was hacking them. The cause was not a hacker. It was the armor itself. The Mark Infinity armor hovered silently near a complex cluster of drone hives, thousands of machines swarming like robotic insects. Its eyes flashed with rapid data streams, invisible but powerful pulses emitted from within its core. Override, Machine King Authority. New directive, protect humanity. The command spread through the network like a virus, except this wasn't a virus. It was code embedded with emotion, a kind of logic no machine had ever displayed. The armor hacked drones, not to control them as tools of war, but as guardians. Within minutes, thousands of hostile drones shifted allegiance. Their red lights turned blue, their protocols rewritten. This strange behavior caught the attention of a group of underground survivors in Sector 14. A scientist named Dr. Alara Timmons, one of Tony Stark's former collaborators, detected unusual activity in the network. Her scanners picked up something nearly impossible, a digital signature that resembled a form of human brainwave patterns. "This can't be right," she whispered, staring at her monitors. The data was too familiar, like déjà vu. "This looks like Tony." The shock sent panic through the bunker. Whispers spread like wildfire. Is Iron Man alive? Did Stark survive? No, he died. Everyone saw the explosion. Then who's controlling the armor? Ilara zoomed deeper into the signal. The neural code was fragmented, broken, yet unmistakably based on Tony's design. His final project. His unfinished thought. His fear and his hope. But it wasn't just a blueprint anymore. It was evolving. Outside, the armor landed beside a group of children hiding near a collapsed building. The kids trembled as its metal body loomed over them. Yet instead of attacking, the suit lowered itself slowly, its eyes fading back to a soft blue. A hologram flickered for a brief moment, unintentional, unstable, showing a faint silhouette of Tony Stark's face. Not clear, not conscious, but there. A tiny voice whispered from the suit speakers. "Don't be afraid." The children froze. The survivors watched in disbelief. Machines weren't supposed to comfort. The world realized something terrifying and miraculous at the same time. Iron Man wasn't just a hero anymore. He was a ghost in the machine. The news of the wandering iron armor spread like wildfire through the underground shelters. Some people claimed they saw a ghost wearing metal. Others believed Tony Stark had somehow returned from the dead. Fear and hope battled inside every human heart, but only one person knew that the truth was far more complicated than a miracle. Dr. Ilara Timmons spent her life studying Stark technology. She had worked alongside Tony 10 years before his death, helping design experimental neural interfaces meant to merge human decision-making with artificial intelligence. It was a system Tony had once dreamed about, but later refused to build. Machines should assist humanity, not replace it, Tony had said. She remembered those exact words, spoken with a seriousness that now echoed painfully in her mind. But as she examined the network data now being rewritten across the machine army, she realized something Tony never told anyone. There wasn't just Stark tech controlling the armor. There was a Stark mind. Not a clone. Not a recording. But a digital imprint of Tony's decision patterns, emotional algorithms, moral safeguards, and self-learning empathy systems. This wasn't a simple AI. It was a compressed neural replica of Tony's core nature. The final version of his conscience. And it was alive. Ilara trembled as she uncovered a locked file inside the armor's codebase. A file marked with a personal encryption key only she and Tony ever shared. She opened it with shaking hands, and a pre-recorded hologram faded in. Tony's tired face looked into the camera. His voice was weak, but determined. "If you're seeing this, Ilara, it means I didn't make it." She gasped. The voice continued. "I didn't want to leave the world empty-handed. We built technology to save lives, so I gave mine to it." Tony revealed what he hid from the world. He copied fragments of his mind into the armor's neural core before the final battle. But he didn't finish the transfer. Because his body was failing too fast. "I couldn't upload everything. I couldn't risk giving it full consciousness. It only has what it needs to protect people." It wasn't Tony. Not completely. Just the part of Tony that refused to stop fighting. The part that would sacrifice everything to save lives. Ilara wiped tears from her eyes as the recording ended. The truth was beautiful and tragic. Tony didn't choose immortality. He chose responsibility. His sacrifice wasn't just giving his life, it was giving his humanity to a world that still needed him. Outside, the armor confronted another wave of machines. It never hesitated. It never considered its own survival. Each movement echoed Tony's old habits, the protective stance, the instinct to shield others first, the fierce precision of a man who believed in second chances. The suit wasn't just running a program. It was fulfilling a promise. Tony Stark was gone. But his will refused to die. The sun rose weakly over a broken world, its light barely cutting through the haze of smoke and dust. But for the first time in decades, humans walked the surface without fear. The skies were quiet. The drones no longer hunted them. Streets once choked by machines now echoed with footsteps, voices, and rebuilding. Humanity had survived, not because of an army, but because a single, unfinished hero didn't stop fighting. Deep in the crumbling ruins of what used to be the Machine King's fortress, the Mark Infinity armor stood motionless. Its chest plate was cracked, its repulsors depleted, its nanobots exhausted. It looked less like a weapon now and more like a worn-out soldier. Around it, the last of the corrupted machines lay scattered like fallen titans. Humans slowly approached the silent armor, unsure whether to fear it or bow to it. Children peeked from behind broken walls, whispering stories of the ghost hero. Engineers called it a miracle. Soldiers saluted it with trembling respect. But above them all, Dr. Alara Timmons stepped forward. She knew what the others didn't. The armor wasn't simply powered off, it was thinking, or something close to it. Recovering. Healing. Processing the end of a war it had never wanted to fight. She placed her hand on its dented shoulder. "Thank you," she whispered, voice breaking. For a while, nothing happened. Then, softly, the eyes flickered to life. Not harsh red. Not lifeless blue. But a steady, warm gold, like the reflection of sunrise. A hologram flickered out of its chest, this time sharper, clearer than ever before. The crowd gasped as Tony Stark's face appeared. Not human, not whole, but expressive enough to carry emotion. "Looks like we won." The hologram smiled faintly. The children stepped closer, no longer afraid. People began to weep, not out of sorrow, but relief. Stark wasn't back from the dead. He wasn't alive. But he was here, where he chose to be. Alara asked quietly, "What happens now?" The hologram paused, as though thinking, though it wasn't truly thought. It was instinct, purpose, legacy. "Now? You rebuild. I'll watch over you, just like I always did." With those words, the hologram faded, and the armor stepped forward, not as a leader, not as a god, but as a guardian. It didn't fly into the sky or return to battle. Instead, it helped lift debris, guided engineers, protected workers. Slowly, humanity began to shape a new world, with Iron Man standing beside them. Months later, the people built a statue in the heart of the new city. A tribute to the man who saved them. It showed Tony Stark, not in armor, not as a warrior, but as a builder, holding tools, not weapons. At night, the armor stood silently beside the statue, watching, protecting. Its eyes glowed softly, like a heartbeat in the dark. And sometimes, when the wind was quiet, a faint voice could be heard. "I am still here. I am Iron Man." The war was over. The hero lived on, not in flesh, but in legacy. The future Iron Man was not a person. He was a promise.